The Jewish love their traditions and they love their festivals. Last week we saw Jesus and his friends entering Jerusalem, just as the festival of unleavened bread, or the Passover, was beginning. On that first night, they meet together to share the Seder meal, which is one of the Passover traditions. They're celebrating the Exodus, or the freedom of the Jews who escaped slavery in Egypt in 12,000 BC. The food they eat is very symbolic. They have bitter herbs that represent the bitterness of slavery. They have unleavened bread or flatbread, which reminded them of their quick escape from Egypt, as they had no time to add any yeast to their bread. And the lamb shank represented the Pesach. The Pesach refers to the ancient Passover sacrifice, known as the Passover lamb. On that last night in Egypt, the Israelites took a spotless and unblemished lamb. They ate it and they used the blood to mark the door frames of their houses. That night, as the angel of death passed over, only those within the marked houses would be safe. It was only then that the Egyptian Pharaoh, so distraught with the loss of his eldest child, relented and finally agreed to let the Israelites go. So every year, since 12,000 BC, Jewish families celebrate this festival together and retell the same Exodus story, working its way through the centuries as they pass it down through the generations year on year. And here Jesus is, a part of that bigger story, celebrating the same Passover with his friends. Did you know that Jesus is also known as the Lamb of God? Spotless and unblemished in character. And in under a week's time, he's going to sacrifice himself. He'll shed his blood to save not just the Israelites, but everyone. Many Christians believe that the story of Passover has many links to the salvation and freedom of all Christians today. But there's still so much more that happens at this dinner party. Here's Hannah to tell you all about it.
Hello, I want to start talking about shoes. Jesus lived in Israel. It was hot and it was dry, so everybody wore sandals, not boots. And they lived in a very hot and dusty place, which meant that your feet were often dirty. So every time you entered a house, it was normal for your feet to be washed by the servant. So when Jesus and his friends, the disciples, met for the very special Passover meal on the day that we now remember and call Maundy Thursday, it was normal for Jesus and his friends to have their feet washed. What was unusual was that Jesus decided he was washing his friends' feet. This was not normal and left one of the disciples, Peter, very upset. Jesus was the leader, the most important person in the room, and yet he wanted to wash the feet of his friends. He was acting like a servant. I wonder how you would feel if a leader in your life were to come and to offer to wash your feet. I think this shows the unusual leadership that Jesus was known for. He became known as the servant king. After washing the feet of the disciples, Jesus sat down with them for a very special dinner. This is now known as the Last Supper. Jesus knew that he was going to die and that this would be the last chance to eat together with his friends. But the others, the disciples, they didn't know that that was going to happen. While they were eating, Jesus took his cup of wine. And he thanked God for it. And then he said to his friends, "This is my blood, which is shed for you." Later on, Jesus did this very similar thing with the bread. Again, he thanked God for the bread. And then he said, "This is my body, which is broken for you." He was giving his friends a clue that soon he was going to die as an act of love for them and for everybody. He then said, "Do this as often as you drink this in remembrance of me." And this is the reason why churches worldwide celebrate communion, or sometimes it's known as the Eucharist. This is where the priest takes the bread and the wine in a chalice and a paten, that's the name of the plate. They bless the bread and the wine, and then they give each person in the church a small piece to eat and to drink, as a reminder that Jesus died for them.
Well, that was one dinner party that you'd never forget, and the night wasn't over yet, for one of the dinner guests was about to betray Jesus to the religious authorities. We'll look forward to seeing you next time as we see how things all turn out.